Hello, class. This is Mr. Hart, and in this podcast, I want to start the Earth history chapter of the textbook. And a large portion of this chapter is based on what we call the geologic time scale. Okay, so a lot of scientists have come together and they've looked at the different time periods of the Earth, and they've kind of separated them based on the different life that was evolving during the time, the different plate tectonic movements that were occurring, what the surface looked like, how the animals were developing, and things like that. And so they've analyzed all these different time periods, and they came up with this complete geologic time scale, which describes the different, sections of the Earth's history. Okay, so the first thing about this geologic time scale is that we can separate the Earth's history into three distinct eras, as we call them. Okay, the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic era. Okay, each of these eras is defined by the type of life that was alive during the time, okay, how things were evolving, and how the Earth's surface looked. Okay, these eras are further categorized into what we call periods of time. Okay, the Carboniferous period, the Tertiary period, so on and so forth. Okay, and again, just further classification, getting more specific in detail. Okay, the Carboniferous period was known for the types of trees that were developing during the time. Okay, and then those are even further analyzed into what we call epochs or epochs. Okay, and again, just the different types of life, like the Cambrian had a lot of invertebrates, the Devonian had a lot of fishes, so on and so forth. Okay, and the last thing we need to understand is what we call an age, and that is a description of the type of life that was most common or dominant during that time period. So we have the age of the invertebrates, age of the fishes, age of amphibians, age of the reptiles or dinosaurs, age of the mammals, and the age of the hominids or humans, basically. Okay, and so we have this large scale classification, and it's kind of hard to wrap our head around all this information. Okay, but let's look at the stuff we need to know for this class. Okay, so I'd pause the video right here and write down these notes, okay, because this is the section I want you to know of this time scale. Okay, and that's the three eras, okay, and three of the periods from each of those eras, okay, and then the tertiary and quaternary period from the Cenozoic era. Okay, we'll go into detail in a second what all these mean, but I'd pause the video right here and take notes of these different time sections, okay? All right, and then once you've got those all written down, I'd pause my notes or pause this video again and take some notes for the different vocabulary. Okay, for the era, a period, an epoch, and an age. Okay, and you don't have to understand exactly what these definitions mean. If you want to simplify, I usually draw this type of picture in class. Okay, where you can think of all the time on Earth as this one big block, and that block is broken up into eras. Okay, and then the eras can contain even smaller sections, which we call periods. And then the periods can be broken down into smaller sections, which we call epochs or epochs. Okay? So, either way, as long as you understand this idea that you get smaller and smaller in size as the amount of time from era to period to epoch. Okay? So, again, take a second. Let's write this down. All right, so I know that's a lot of notes, but hopefully this gives us kind of a basis for what we're talking about. Okay, it gives us a good framework that we can look at. Okay, but let's look at each one of these individually. Okay, so going back to this time scale, okay, we had the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic era, but notice this only goes to about 550 million years ago. Okay, so what happened with all that time before then? We call that the Precambrian eon. Okay, so the Precambrian eon or Precambrian time is about 4.6 billion years ago to 550 million years ago. Okay, since the Earth formed to about the Paleozoic era. And this time is known for intense atmospheric conditions, okay? Basically lots of volcanoes and black ash, okay, very similar to Venus's atmosphere at the time or right now, okay? You got sulfur dioxide and all different types of carbons in the air. Excuse me. It's pretty lifeless around this time, okay, except for some bacteria that form and things like that, okay? But this is the Precambrian time. Not a lot's going on until some water, we assume, either comes up from the mantle or comes in some other form, and we start to get some oceans. Once that happens, we go into the Paleozoic era. Okay, and the Paleozoic era is known for its marine life. Okay, lots of squids and coral and things like that. Okay, very strange water forms. Okay, but this is because the water, the life first forms down there because they're able to take the oxygen out of the water. Okay, they're not as affected by the intense atmospheric conditions. Okay, and so we start to get some marine life forming. And we have different periods in the Paleozoic era. Okay, we have the Cambrian period, which is the first period, and it's basically the age of the invertebrate. Okay, and if you think about an invertebrate is an animal without a backbone, and a vertebrate is one that does have a backbone. Okay, so Cambrian is invertebrate. Okay, a lot of the shelled animals, the mollusks, okay, trilobites and things like that. Okay, over time, that shell starts to form into a backbone and evolves into a fish. And so we get the Devonian period, which is the age of the fish. And then eventually those fish start to crawl up on land once the atmospheric conditions start to be favorable. And we get the Permian period, which is the age of the amphibians. Okay, and again, this is a very, very simple look at the Paleozoic era. Okay, there's actually 7 distinct periods. Okay, but I just want you to know these 3 periods because they're kind of known for the different ages: the age of the invertebrate, the age of the fish, and the age of the amphibians. Okay, and so again, simple version, but kind of get the outlook. Okay, the invertebrate form into the fish, which eventually form into the amphibians. Okay. And then the Paleozoic era ends, and how an era ends is you have to have a mass extinction. Okay, so a lot of volcanoes start to erupt. Okay, in class we watched this video about how this all happens, but the main idea is we get a lot more of the sulfur-based gases in the air. The water starts to get polluted because of some bacteria that emit sulfur dioxide into the water. Okay, and almost 90% of the life on Earth dies. Okay, this is even greater than the dinosaurs' extinction. Okay, but it's a pretty intense extinction that occurs. Okay, but certain animals are able to survive that mass extinction, and mostly it's reptiles. Okay, and that brings us into the Mesozoic era, which is the age of the dinosaurs. Okay, and so it also has its distinct periods: the Triassic period, Jurassic period, and Cretaceous period. And if you look at the different life forms, okay, in the Triassic period, you have very, very simple dinosaurs, okay? Mostly these raptor-looking dinosaurs, okay? Not a lot of diversity in life. Then in the Jurassic period, you start to get more of the leaf eaters and the herbivores, the long-necked dinosaurs. You start to get some smaller raptors and some strange-looking birds, okay? So the diversity of life, again, continues to evolve. And then by the Cretaceous period, to have most of the dinosaurs that you're familiar with, like the T-Rex and the pterodactyl and the Triceratops and so on. Okay, so if you actually think of all the dinosaurs you could probably name, most of them would come in the Cretaceous period. Okay, which is funny because the movie Jurassic Park actually has mostly animals from the Cretaceous period, and so it should be called Cretaceous Park. But Jurassic sounds a lot cooler, so that's probably why they stayed with that. Okay, but that's the Mesozoic era. Okay, and again, this is a long stretch of time. It's about 250 million years to 65 million years. And so we're looking at about a 200 million year difference between when these dinosaurs roamed the earth and when these dinosaurs roamed the earth. Okay, and so a lot of diversity, very long period of time. Okay, but again, as you know, there's a mass extinction that occurs. Okay, most likely from an asteroid emitting, or a meteor hitting the earth and ash being spread everywhere and getting into the atmosphere and killing off most of the dinosaurs. Okay. That allows another type of life to come into play, which brings in the Cenozoic era, which is the age of the mammals. Okay, things like mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and rats and all types of animals. The fur start to come out, and we get the Cenozoic era, the age of the mammals. Okay, and that is broken into 2 parts: the Tertiary period and the Quaternary period. And if you think about the Tertiary period, you can think mostly of like the movie Ice Age. Without the ice, you have lots of mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and things like that. And then the Quaternary period is basically our time period. We're in the Quaternary period right now. And it's kind of weird to think about because the Quaternary period is actually about 20 million years old right now. Okay, so it contains a lot of life. The last ice age actually happened in the Quaternary period. If you think of the Megalodon, which is the big shark in the ocean, it lived about 15 million years ago. It's still in the Quaternary period. So don't be fooled. Even though I show this picture of current day life, it contains a large history of the Earth in it as well. Okay? All right, so that's just a quick overview of this whole timeline. Okay, again, we just looked at certain sections of it. And in class, we did an activity where we looked at the different time scales. Okay, and we kind of drew it on this paper so we could see what the geologic time scale looked like if you could blow it up. Okay, we taped 9 pieces of paper together, and we could see that the Precambrian time actually takes up a good section of the time scale. Okay, and so the last thing we did is we watched this video about this piano player, and he relates the Earth's history time scale to a piano, and you'll see that the Precambrian time takes a large section. If you imagine the piano was the Earth's history, the 88 keys of the piano represent the Earth's history, you'd notice that a large section of the piano represents the Precambrian time, and then the amount of time that the humans have been on Earth is very small compared to the rest of the piano. Okay, so I recommend watching that video. It's a good one. But that's all we want to cover for this video. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.